Burn it, William. Burn these pages right now. I will not look at this filthy lie about my wife. I won't burn it, Father, because if I do, you'll be the first king in history to be dethroned by his own queen while you are still alive. Read page 4. She didn't just sign the papers. She's already moved the bank codes. Imagine sitting in your bed at midnight and hearing that exact, raw, leaked audio file of King Charles and Prince William screaming at each other inside the private study room. Forget all the boring news about royal protocols. This is a total palace coup. Just hours ago, Prince William physically walked into Charles's private rooms, bypassed the guards, and slammed a heavy, blood-red wax seal file on the king's desk. It wasn't a report. It was an absolute death sentence for Camilla's future. When Charles read the secret transcripts of Camilla's private meetings, he didn't just get angry. He literally shook with panic, called a security detail, and deactivated her security badges at the gate while she was still on her way back to the palace. Before we play the next 40 seconds of this leak tape where Camilla is heard screaming at the guards outside the iron gates, hit that subscribe button right now, because the royal lawyers are sending us legal threats to take this video down as we speak. Let's be completely honest. This is not some sudden, emotional family argument that blew out of proportion over a cup of tea. What you are witnessing is the cold, calculated climax of a silent war that has been rotting the foundation of the House of Windsor for over a year. The mainstream media has spent months feeding you the sanitized, clean narrative that Queen Camilla was a devoted, tireless rock standing beside King Charles during his recent, exhausting health battles. They showed you pictures of her smiling, holding his hand, and bravely representing the crown at public events. But behind the heavy velvet drapes of the king's private quarters, a completely different, terrifying reality was unfolding. Camilla wasn't just supporting her husband. She was quietly, systematically building an empire of her own, operating under the assumption that Charles's grip on power was slipping. And that is where the dark mystery of Operation Sanctuary begins. The conflict actually started when Prince William noticed a highly unusual shift in how the king's daily executive paperwork, the famous royal red boxes, was being handled. Traditionally, these red boxes, containing top-secret government briefings, intelligence reports, and constitutional decrees, are delivered directly to the king's personal secretary. But over a 6-month period, William's high-level contacts inside the cabinet office noticed a bizarre pattern. The boxes were being diverted to the queen's private sitting room first. William, with his fiercely protective instinct for crown and his deep-seated, lifelong suspicion of his stepmother, instantly smelled blood. He knew he couldn't just walk up to his father and make wild accusations. Charles's blind devotion to Camilla is legendary. He would have dismissed William's concerns as lingering resentment from the Princess Diana era. No, William needed hard, undeniable, and physical evidence that would leave his father with absolutely no room to make excuses. In total secrecy, William initiated Operation Sanctuary, a highly classified, internal surveillance operation utilizing a tiny, ultra-loyal group of retired MI5 security experts and senior household staff who had served Queen Elizabeth II for decades. These were people who held allegiance to the institution of the monarchy, not to the current queen consort. For months, William's team discreetly tracked everything. They documented every single person who entered Camilla's private apartments after midnight. They analyzed financial ledgers within the queen consort's private household budget, and what they found was absolutely staggering. Camilla had quietly initiated a massive restructuring of the palace staff. She had systematically targeted long-serving, institutional loyalists, men and women who had spent 30 years protecting the strict, traditional lines of succession, and forced them into early retirement or minor administrative transfers. In their place, Camilla began hiring highly aggressive external PR consultants and corporate lawyers who bypassed the traditional palace recruitment channels entirely. These new hires shared only one characteristic: absolute personal loyalty to Camilla. But the turning point, the moment Operation Sanctuary uncovered the ultimate betrayal, happened when William's team intercepted an encrypted digital blueprint sitting on a secure, private server inside the Duchy of Cornwall archives. The file was codenamed Project Phoenix. It was a highly confidential, legally drafted Regency amendment. The documents proved that Camilla's legal team was actively preparing a constitutional loophole. In the event that King Charles's health deteriorated to a point where he could no longer sign executive orders, this amendment would bypass Prince William's immediate constitutional right to act as Prince Regent. Instead, it would establish a joint regency committee where Queen Camilla will hold the ultimate, tie-breaking veto power over all royal finances, land allocations, and state appointments. To put it in plain, brutal English, Camilla was preparing to strip William of his future birthright while his father was still alive, turning herself into the absolute, de facto ruler of the British Empire when William sat in his private study at Adelaide Cottage, holding the physical printouts of these legal drafts. The betrayal was so immense it felt suffocating. He realized his stepmother had turned the king's private quarters into a command center for an institutional coup. William didn't sleep that night. He gathered the legal drafts, the financial tracking sheets, and the recorded testimonies of the staff members Camilla's team had threatened, and bound them into a thick, heavy dossier, stamping it with his personal red wax seal. He prepared to drive to Buckingham Palace to confront his father, knowing that once he crossed that line, the House of Windsor would never be the same again. The final collision between the future king and the reigning monarch happened at precisely 10:45 p.m. inside the private oak-paneled study at Windsor Castle. The atmosphere wasn't just tense, it felt suffocatingly hostile. Prince William had completely bypassed the traditional booking staff, using his high-level security clearance to enter his father's quarters unannounced. King Charles was sitting behind his massive mahogany desk, looking frail but visibly irritated by the sudden intrusion. Without saying a single word greeting, William stepped forward and slammed the thick, black leather-bound dossier, marked with his personal crimson wax seal, directly onto the center of the desk, knocking over a silver fountain pen. "What is the meaning of this, William?" Charles demanded, his voice shaking slightly with old-age authority. "You enter my private quarters like a thief in the night, throwing files on my desk? Have you forgotten who rules this house?" "I haven't forgotten, Father," William said, leaning over the desk, his eyes burning with a freezing, deadpan intensity. "But it seems your wife has. Open the file. Read page 12. Look at the digital transfer receipts from the Duchy of Lancaster account. She isn't just managing your schedule anymore. She is funding her own independent legal execution of this family." Charles stared at his son, his face tightening with a mixture of anger and defensive denial. He refused to touch the dossier. "I will not read your paranoid delusions, William. You have spent 20 years looking at Camilla with resentment because of what happened to your mother. I will not allow you to insult the Queen Consort," Charles bellowed, slamming his fist onto the arm of his chair. "Burn it. Burn these pages right now, or I will have your security detail permanently removed from this castle." William didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He simply reached into his pocket, pulled out a small, encrypted digital recorder, and pressed play. The audio that filled the silent room was unmistakable. It was Camilla's voice, speaking in a sharp, demanding tone to her personal financial lawyer during a midnight meeting held just 4 days prior in her private apartments. "The king's medical team answers to me now," Camilla's voice echoed clearly from the speaker. "When the transition period begins, William will be tied up in Parliament with constitutional legalities. Ensure the Swiss offshore accounts are cleared for immediate transfer the moment Charles signs a medical proxy. We cannot leave our future security dependent on William's mercy." The room turned entirely ice cold. King Charles sat back in his chair, his jaw dropping as the color completely drained from his face. His breathing became shallow, his eyes darting between the recorder and the black file on his desk. This is an AI fabrication," Charles whispered, his voice cracking as he tried to find a logical escape. "Camilla would never, she wouldn't do this to me. It's not a fabrication, Father." William delivered the crushing blow. "And you know it. The backup key to her private writing room is in the library desk drawer. The ledger is codenamed Registry C. If you think I am lying, go open her safe right now and tell me my experts manufactured her physical handwriting." Driven by a sudden, frantic panic, King Charles stood up, pushed his chair back so violently it hit the wall behind him. He didn't call his staff. He walked down the long, darkened corridor to Camilla's private wing alone, his cane clicking heavily against the marble floor, with William walking 2 paces behind him like a shadow executioner. They entered Camilla's private sitting room. Charles's hands were shaking so violently he dropped the backup key twice before finally sliding it into the hidden safe concealed behind a massive portrait of King George III. He swung the heavy iron door open, and there, lying right on top of a stack of old letters, was a physical blueprint of the Regency takeover plan. But as Charles pulled the documents out, the first massive, stomach-churning twist of the night dropped. Buried directly underneath the legal documents was an absolute bombshell, a private, handwritten journal belonging to Camilla, containing detailed daily notations tracking the king's specific cognitive medication dosages, accompanied by a secret, signed agreement with an international media conglomerate. The contract, bearing Camilla's personal signature, authorized a massive, multi-million-dollar tell-all documentary series about the internal collapse of King Charles's mental health, scheduled to be released automatically if the king ever refused to sign her Regency amendments. Charles held the contract in his hands, staring at his wife's signature under the dim light of the vault, realizing with absolute terror that he hadn't just been betrayed financially. He was being set up globally to be painted as an incompetent madman by the very woman he had fought the world to marry. By 1:30 a.m., the cold execution of Prince William's report had transitioned from a private confrontation to an absolute global digital wildfire. The first spark ignited on Twitter, X, where an anonymous account linked to the cyber intelligence group that breached the palace's transition files dropped a synchronized bombshell thread. It didn't just contain rumors. It included high-resolution screenshots of the metadata from Camilla's private registry C folder, alongside a raw audio file of Charles gasping as he opened her secret safe. The tweet went viral in a matter of seconds, sending shockwaves across the globe. At Palace Watch _int, breaking, the House of Windsor has fractured. King Charles has reportedly ordered the immediate revocation of Queen Camilla's security clearance after Prince William presented undeniable proof of a financial and constitutional coup. Documents reveal Camilla's team was preparing a Regency takeover fund. Palace is in absolute lockdown. Hashtag royal crisis, hashtag Camilla exposed. Within 45 minutes, the hashtag Camilla exposed was trending #1 worldwide, generating over 22 million tweets. High-profile international media outlets and corporate broadcasters began cutting into their live midnight feeds, displaying chaotic, shaky footage of the high iron gates of Windsor Castle, illuminated by the flashing blue lights of heavy police barricades. But the absolute jaw-dropping climax of this escalation occurred when Queen Camilla's private convoy actually arrived at the outer security gate. Camilla had been rushing back from her private estate in Wiltshire after being frantically alerted by her personal staff that her access to the internal palace servers had been abruptly terminated. As her silver Bentley pulled up to the heavily guarded checkpoint, the lead security officer, a senior commander who had personally served King Charles for 25 years, stepped forward, holding a digital tablet. He did not bow. He did not open the door. "I am sorry, Your Majesty," the officer said, his voice flat, professional, and entirely devoid of warmth. "We have received a direct executive sovereign mandate. Your security credentials have been deactivated. You are no longer authorized to enter the inner perimeter of Windsor Castle." Camilla's face twisted in a mixture of absolute panic and blinding rage. She rolled down the tinted window, her voice trembling as she screamed at the guard. "Do you know who I am? Open these gates immediately. I am the Queen of England." "By order of the King and the Prince of Wales, ma'am," the officer replied, standing his ground as armed tactical officers quietly stepped behind the barricade. "You are to be escorted to a private state-owned cottage outside the perimeter. Your personal belongings are being transferred as we speak." At that exact moment, a bystander with a high-zoom camera captured a 10-second video of Camilla screaming at the guards, her hands clawing at the window glass, completely shattered by the realization that her reign had ended in the dark. Within 5 minutes, that raw video clip hit TikTok, garnering 50 million views before the palace lawyers could even draft a cease and desist letter. The queen consort had been locked out of her own castle like a common trespasser, and the entire world was watching her public execution in real time. By 3 a.m., the virtual world had split into two violently warring factions, but the loudest, most deafening roar came from Princess Diana's legendary global fan base. For 30 long years, Diana's supporters have watched Camilla quietly climb her way from being labeled a third person in the marriage to wearing the actual crown of England. Now, the poetic justice was so raw, so sudden, it felt like an absolute public execution. Within minutes of the hashtag Camilla exposed hitting #1 worldwide, millions of accounts began flooding X, formerly Twitter, and TikTok with high-definition edits of Princess Diana's famous 1995 panorama interview, juxtaposed directly with the shaky, dark footage of Camilla being humiliated and locked outside the Windsor gates. One viral post, garnering over 14 million views in less than 2 hours, read, "Diana said there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. Well, Camilla, it looks like the crowd just got cut down to 2. Prince William just cleaned his mother's house. The Queen of Hearts wins the final move from beyond the grave." But while millions of fans were celebratory and mocking, the reaction inside the high-security glass offices of London's financial district and Wall Street was pure, unadulterated terror. Queen Camilla's highly aggressive financial moves weren't just personal. She had spent months quietly transferring royal wealth and liquid assets out of the traditional Duchy of Lancaster trusts and funneling them into highly complex, offshore private entities. The moment Prince William executed the sovereign order to freeze Camilla's family assets and revoke her financial authorities, major global banking conglomerates realized they were holding billions of pounds of highly controversial, legally contested royal funds. A senior investment banker from a top-tier Swiss firm, speaking on absolute condition of anonymity, leaked the panic to a prominent financial editor. "Our compliance units are in absolute meltdown tonight. If the king's lawyers declare Camilla's private transfers as unauthorized state embezzlement, these offshore accounts will be permanently locked under international anti-money laundering protocols. We are talking about potential default risks on major sovereign-linked bonds. If William presses a button, it could trigger a massive credit freeze across 3 major European banks by tomorrow morning." The British monarchy was no longer just dealing with a messy domestic divorce or family squabble. They were standing on the absolute edge of a global financial disaster. As the sun began to rise over London, the public wasn't just watching a royal family in crisis. They were watching a high-stakes, multi-billion-dollar game of financial chess, where the future of the crown hung on who would blink first. But as the heavy iron gates of Windsor Castle remain locked and the global markets continue to plunge, one terrifying question remains that the palace is desperately trying to bury. Was this incredibly calculated move by Prince William really just about protecting his father's health and honoring Princess Diana's legacy? Or did the Prince of Wales just execute the most brilliant, high-stakes constitutional trap in modern history? Think about it. By utilizing an ancient, emergency national security protocol to strip Queen Camilla of her security clearance and freeze her assets without a formal vote from the British Parliament, William didn't just sideline his stepmother. Under a forgotten 1937 Regency statute, any major unilateral intervention of this scale automatically triggers a highly classified assessment of the reigning monarch's own executive competence. By morning, King Charles may find that in his frantic rush to sign William's decree to banish Camilla, he has inadvertently signed away his own active authority, placing the entire British sovereign under a temporary, state-appointed Regency Council led by none other than Prince William himself. As military security vehicles quietly line the private avenues of Windsor, and Camilla's legal team prepares a retaliatory midnight filing from a secure location in Geneva, the clock is ticking. Did William just save his father's crown, or has he quietly, effortlessly, become the de facto King of England before the sun even rises? The real war for the throne of England has officially begun, and there is absolutely no turning back.